Summer in Hip City with Luna. My family and I helped move Luna out of our old apartment in Hip Forest, and we stayed with my parents for a few days before moving into the Moshian Shrine. For those who don't know what a Moshian Shrine is, it's a building where Moshians congregate to celebrate their holidays and to sing and read from the scriptures of Moshe in small groups. From what I understand, the shrines are more liberal and tolerant than the temples are, though there are many different iterations of Moshian, and I won't pretend I understand all the nuance. There were a few bedrooms throughout the shrine where Moshians who were in need of a place to sleep could crash for the night. Because Luna's mother lived in the Moshian Shrine back in her college days, we were able to secure a nice bedroom for 2 months while we figured out our apartment situation. The shrine owner was Maril, a skinny old man with tiny blue eyes and the demeanour of a school guidance counsellor. He had purchased the building with other Moshians back in the 80s and eventually secured it as his own shrine open to all Moshians, though particularly the bohemian variety. One of the shrine rules was no green power consumption indoors, though Luna's mother admitted to doing such a thing all the time back in her college days. I have no problems with Moshians at all and have found most I've met to be delightful people, but I was still reluctant to give myself to the Moshian ways, like Luna and all the Moshians around me would have preferred. There are indeed a lot of eyebrow-raising parallels between power experiences in the great unknown and what is written in the scripture of Moshe, but I think the reality is that the scripture of Moshe is an elaborate attempt to pin down the great unknown and provides only surface-level instructions on how to appease it. Perhaps they extracted valuable insights from this, but the scripture of Moshe seems to have grown further and further away from the wisdom of the great unknown from whence it came. As Marek Huberman from the television show The Lion Pit would say, and for those reasons, I'm out. Anyway, I found ways around the no green power rule. Sometimes I'd walk to the park next door for a quick consumption, and other times I'd sneak inhalations in the shrine's musty attic when I was sure no one was around. On a few occasions, I waited by the window up in the attic to watch Maril leave the shrine in his car, so I could consume green power immediately after. In my spare time, I played with my music gear, went on runs, and frantically searched for jobs with very little hope. It'd get emotionally volatile at times, searching for jobs and getting briefly attached to the ideas of them before realizing that they would not become reality. Finally, it all worked out. I landed a catering job as well as a medical green power salesman job, and we ended up finding an affordable apartment in a convenient location. The green power job didn't end up starting until August, which was a bit disappointing, but I figured I could manage with my catering job until then. The catering was through a sort of catering temp agency that found different events all around Hip City that needed people dressed in all black to do food-related service for. This included colleges, private company cookouts, weddings, corporate events, even private school cafeteria work. In no time, I became familiar with the greater Hip City area quite well, and enjoyed the neck of the woods I was in much more than where I had spent my freshman year of college. Though Luna and I had our moments of passion moving back in with each other, our relationship quickly began to collapse once again. Like she did at the end of our trip to the Gold Coast, she got on my arse about my green power consumption. Even though I was working a job selling medically certified green power, she could still find things to complain about relative to my habits. I told her, as I had many times before, that this was a part of my life that wasn't going to be altered by anyone else's opinion of it. It was demoralizing, to say the least, as I realized over the course of that summer that we had made a mistake choosing to move back in together. Meanwhile, I was meeting people I was interested in at both of my jobs, and I knew that our relationship could never last with this level of dissatisfaction on my end alone. With too many bad afternoons and emotionally draining days, it was time to face the facts with Luna. It happened in early September over the course of a week. For one reason or another, things had been becoming increasingly emotional, and we couldn't stop having conversations that turned to tears. I wish I could remember what we were talking about, or what most of our arguments were about for that matter, but we visited my parents at my house for a weekend, and in short, it turned into a terrible time. Between her never seeing my point of view and my parents not caring much about my new green power job, I felt more depressed and alone than ever. The night before we left, we both ended up sobbing together in my bed, me because of my profound sadness and hopelessness, her because she couldn't bear to see me like that and couldn't understand where all of my emotion came from. I remember it started with me trying to have a deep conversation with her. Do you ever think of the different possibilities of the true nature of reality and existence? Not really. What do you mean? She asked what I meant, but I could tell she didn't care too much. Oh, like, what happens when we die? Or like, if this is it? I don't really think about death ever. Why do you want to think about that? She grumbled, as she furrowed her brow and turned away from me on the bed. I just think it's interesting to contemplate the different possibilities, especially as someone who likes philosophy. For example, this could all be a simulation, something we are plugged into. Or this could be evolution, as they say it is. Or we could be a highly programmed genetic story playing out for the entertainment of higher beings. You know what I mean? Like this either matters on a greater scale, or it doesn't, depending on the truth of existence. I'd now take the position that this both matters and doesn't. Just bringing up a few different possibilities for the true nature of existence scared her, in her own words, and she expressed that she didn't see why I'd like thinking of such scary things. This turned into a broader discussion of why she was scared, and how that was a huge difference between us, because I had immense interest in these questions, and considered them to be major factors in my enjoyment of existence in general. Ultimately, her dismissiveness and our dysfunction was too much for me to handle, and that's when our sob session began. We cried ourselves to sleep and went back to Hip City the next day. I don't remember if it was the day we returned or the day after, but we shared a simple argument before grocery shopping that turned into the fight that broke the relationship's camel's back. I believe I used a voice to mock how she sounded when she ordered me to do things like I was a child. "Don't mock me," she said in defense, clearly hurt by my accurate impression. My response came with an angry tone and yell that sounded eerily demonic. "I'm not mocking you, Luna, because that's how you fucking sound." I then stormed off into my room and slammed the door. I regretted the energy I put out there, but ended up seeing it as the culmination of all my anger and dissatisfaction, something that needed to come out for me to realize that this relationship needed to end. Our next conversation the following day was much calmer and reflective. I told her that I didn't feel love for her anymore, or rather that the way I did wasn't a healthy way to love, and so we should stop being a couple. She had brought up couples therapy, but I assured her that this wasn't anything that could be talked out and was rather a fundamentally dysfunctional relationship. Ironically, the hardest part of the conversation was when I told her that she wasn't invited to Rashid's wedding anymore, something just around the corner that she had been looking forward to for about a year. The wedding was only going to happen once, and I explained that I couldn't risk not having a good time there because of the proximity of my ex. I knew that she had the power to ruin the moment for me in any given second. She threw a tantrum about it, but it was an absolute for me, and it was part of us no longer being a unit.